This is the sound of my soul. This is the sound.
And welcome back to Community IQ. Your host, Garrett Bennell. Well, I'd like to bring on a very special guest, live here in Eustis, Florida, at the very home that he was born and raised in, Dr. Bill Zeller, pillar of the community. Dr. Bill Zeller, how are you doing, my man?
Muy bien, ¿y ustedes?
I don't know Spanish.
I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
Oh, doing well, my man. So, buddy, I've enjoyed the wisdom since the very first time I got to meet you. And I'd like the people to get to know about Bill Zeller. What made Bill Zeller Bill Zeller? So how did it begin, my friend?
Well, I can make this very short. Vini Vidi Vici. Thank you, Mrs. Briggle, my Latin teacher, at Eustis High School. When Julius Caesar came back from his conquest of present-day France, Gaul, he said, Vini Vidi Vici. I came, I saw, I conquered. And that I can sum my life up just like that. I came into this world, I saw what had to be done, and I did it. Is that all you need?
Well, you were born here. I'd like to know how that began.
Well, I imagine it began with my mother and father having intercourse.
That's true. Right here in Eustis, Florida, I take it.
Yes, sir. I'm Eustis born, Eustis bred. And when I die, I'll be Eustis dead.
Very cool. So your mother and father, and I understand your father was a very hard-working man that started from nothing and built a good business and had a good home for his son. And
Oh, well, that's true. My mother and father, their families were wiped out by the Depression. And before the Depression, they were fairly affluent. And, for example, my mother had her own automobile at 12 years old. And then the Depression come and just bankrupted both families. And they had to just flee Wisconsin because they said that, at least in Florida, we won't freeze to death during the winter because they couldn't buy coal for the Wisconsin winter. And you say my father worked very hard. My mother worked equally hard in the business. It was 50-50. Thinking back on my parents, until they retired, I never remember them ever doing anything but working. And so anyway, I was born in what's now a big vacant lot in the middle of Eustis, Florida. That was the old hospital in February 21st, 1946, 1:38 a.m. And, keep going. And so anyway, I had a wonderful childhood. And people say, what are you talking about? You were raised the first 12 years of your life living over the funeral home. That must have been morbid. That would have been terrible. Now, you know, what people don't realize is in those days, in rural America, the funeral homes ran the ambulance services. There's no EMS or anything. And so it was 24/7 action. And you also had to have at least two boys, on duty there. And man, you talk about stimulation and conversation and help and love and respect. It was a wonderful childhood. Everybody wanted to come to my house after school, all right? And, the boys were, 18, 19-year-old young men. They hadn't been drafted yet. They didn't know what they wanted to do with their life. And all over America, if you ask men now probably in their late 70s, so many of them worked at the funeral home. And it was wonderful. They my friends and I mean, they taught us how to gamble. They taught us how to smoke. They showed us our first pornography. Whoa. And played basketball out and back with my friends. And it was a wonderful childhood. And I have nothing but fond memories of my childhood. And unfortunately, my father passed away when I was 11 of leukemia. And, oh, man, that was tough. But my mother, several years later, remarried. And again, I was blessed with the most wonderful stepfather any boy could ever have. And so I graduated from Eustis High School. And, you know, it was good. Man, we had some good teachers. Well, we had a few bad apples like any profession, but boy, we had so many good teachers that were not only interested in teaching us a subject, they did their best to mold us into productive American citizens. And they did a damn good job of it. And so I graduated, and I'm the most blessed and fortunate human that ever set foot on this earth. My beloved parents, my stepfather and my mother, they paid for every dime of my education. Emory University, bachelor's, University of Florida Med. I never opened my wallet. And so I really had a leg up. I came out of medical school with zero debt. And I had a wonderful experience, wonderful, at Emory. Oh, what an institution of higher learning. And, you know, since I was a sophomore in high school, all I ever wanted to be was a small-town family practitioner. And in those days, if you wanted to go to medical school, you had to be a chemistry major. I'm sorry, you had to be a chemistry major because it weeded them out quick. And so I said, look, I'm going to spend 4 years at one of the finest higher institutions of learning in this world. I'm not going to just study chemistry. God. I'm going to be a dual major, a major in chemistry, a minor in art history. And boy, what an education I got. And to be honest with you, I've never used my chemistry degree again, ever. You think doctors have to know chemistry? No. And but I've used my art history minor my entire life. So anyway, I did pretty good at Emory. I was elected to Phi Beta Kappa, which, for you that don't know, Phi Beta Kappa is the highest scholastic undergraduate honor society in the world. So I didn't have any problem getting into medical school. All right, I was accepted. And, University of Florida Med School, wonderful, wonderful teaching. And, you know, I could have gone to Harvard Med or Yale or Johns Hopkins, Chicago, Duke. Actually, I, just for the hell of it, applied to all of them and got accepted. But that's not what I needed, that high-powered medical education. That's great if you want to be a neurosurgeon or research chemist or an academician, but if you want to be a family practitioner, you need a medical school. At that time, like the University of Florida, they taught you the nuts and bolts of medicine. So then, by the way, in medical school, I did pretty good. I was elected to Alpha Omega Alpha, which is the Phi Beta Kappa of medical school. So my residency, I could have gone anywhere I wanted. But at that time, the best family practice residency east of the Mississippi was Charlotte Memorial Hospital, Charlotte, North Carolina. And so I applied there and, of course, was accepted. I need to backtrack. I was married in college to the love of my life, and she was the most patient, tolerant woman you would ever find. She put up with my sorry ass and my harebrained ambitions and lifestyle. Never complained. So anyway, we had our first child when I was a second-year resident at University of Florida. Charlotte Memorial. And so I complete my residency. Oh, man, what a residency. I tell you, I saw it all and did it all. And when I got out of that 3-year residency, I was a doctor. I could do virtually anything. I can do a spinal tap, blindfolded. I know my landmarks. I can put a chest tube in. I can drain an abdomen. I can do a bone marrow aspirate, biopsy. And, in those days, a good family practitioner was supposed to be able to handle 92% of what walked in his office, as good as any specialist. But the mark of a real good family practitioner, or any doctor, is knowing his limitations. That 8%, you got to recognize you got no business trying to treat them. They need the specialist. And so, anyway, well then, this is a funny story. Talking about harebrained ideas. When I was a first-year resident, I joined the Air Force Active Reserve. And as you know, or don't, Air Force any active reserve is 1 week in a month on active duty and 2 weeks a year on active duty. Well, that's not a really big deal for a 9-to-5er. But the first 2 years of residency in those days, because they were really trying to give you the experience to be a doctor, it was 36 hours on call, 12 off. 36 on, 12 off. And let me tell you, those 36 on, you didn't get any long periods of sleep. It was 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there, maybe 20 or 30 minutes here, and then the beeper would go off, and you gotta go. And so anyway, in order to make my 1 week in a month, I had to switch with my fellow residents, and so I pulled many a 72 on, and then come home Friday afternoon, put my Air Force uniform on. My wife would have my duffel packed, report to the military base for the weekend, get home late Sunday night, and, get a little sleep, get up at 6 a.m. the next morning and start 36 on, 12 off. And I loved it. I loved it. And how I did it, I have no idea. But I loved it. I did it. And so anyway, after I completed my residency, I could have served out my year in the reserves and been discharged. But I said, Penny, how many times in your life do you have the opportunity to be in uniform during a real shooting war, Vietnam? And I said, I'm going to join, I'm going to sign up for active duty. And 3 years, I was offered, 3-year hitch. And of course she says, you're going to do what you're going to do. And so anyway, I started my 3 years of active duty. And I was stationed all over the place. And she stayed in Dayton, Ohio, which was Wright Pat Air Force Base, was my home base. And I said, well, if I'm going to be a doctor in the Air Force, I'm going to be a flight surgeon. So I went to flight surgeon school, and I became a flight surgeon. And boy, you talk about good life, good time. And what some flight surgeons think is a terrible obligation, even today, Air Force flight surgeon has to spend 6 hours a month in the air. And God, that was just whipped cream on top of the horse shit. And so I made a special point of being the doctor for the jet jockeys, the fighter pilots. And so much of my 6 hours a month I was in the back seat of a fighter jet. And I've been in the back seat of an F-100 Super Sabre, an F-105 Thud, F-4 Phantom, and the last flight I took was in the brand smacking new F-15 Strike Eagle. And my God, I thought I'd been in aircraft before. I ain't never been in something like that. Oh my God. Oh, it was light years ahead of the F-4 Phantom, which was a decent plane. So anyway, I put in my 3 years. And truthfully, I would have loved to make a career of the Air Force. But my dear wife absolutely despised the role of officer's wife. And I don't know if y'all know about it, but in the military, if you're married, if you're going to advance grade, your wife has to love it more than you do. All right? So I knew I could make full bird colonel, but I'd never get that star on my shoulder. I'd never be a brigadier general. And so I put in my time and was honorably discharged, came back to Eustis, Florida, my hometown, and hung my shingle out. I didn't buy somebody's practice or something. I just hung my shingle out. And first couple of years, pretty lean, but we never missed a meal. And, the rest is kind of a blur. We kids, or 2 kids, and work, and it was all kind of a blur. All I can say is 98% of the time I enjoyed every minute of it, and that's pretty good, And I'll tell you a story. Hang on, let me have a drink of this vodka. Oh, that's good. At Emory, I had to read Thoreau's On Walden Pond, and one of the things that always impressed me about it, Thoreau said that the majority of men lead lives of quiet desperation. And I said, oh, that's a bunch of bullshit. I've never known, my parents, even our employees, our neighbors, they certainly didn't look like they were leading a life of quiet desperation. Well, let me tell you, when I got out in private practice, Thoreau hit the nail on the head. The majority of men and women lead lives of quiet desperation. They're miserable with their job, their marriage, their kids, and wow, I feel so sorry for them. And so anyway, I don't think we lived a life of quiet desperation, and So I've been in my 30 years here in Eustis and family practice, and I had a good career. I think my patients kind of like me. I'll tell you the truth, without bragging. I'm a good damn doctor. And plus, in Florida, which was for a lot of that time the malpractice capital of the world, I never got sued. I never even had an intent to sue filed against me. And never any, inquiries from Medicare or DEA, controlled substances, insurance, hospital boards, committee, nothing. I just did my job and did it right to the best of my ability. And so after 30 years, I figured that's about enough. And the real reason I retired was because I saw the hell coming to doctors today. Oh, God, I feel so sorry for them. Oh, Lord. Let's just take electronic medical records. Oh, that's the answer to healthcare, man. Let me tell you, when a new patient comes to you, they bring their medical records, and they think these are like, the Ark of the Covenant. That you know what any doctor does when they bring you this pile of their medical records. He looks through it and he finds the latest lab, the latest X-ray diagnostic imaging, the latest path report, the latest admission and discharge summaries, and maybe an op note or something. That's all he looks at. He doesn't look at all that hen scratching of office notes and all that. You haven't got time, and most of the time you can't even read them anyway. And so anyway, and now all that has to be put into the computer. And there's never been anything more destructive to physician efficiency, productivity than electronic medical records. It should be abolished and never allowed again. Well, anyway, so I saw this shit coming, and I said, I ain't gonna do that. So I retired at the height of my career ability, and we lived a happy retirement life, and for about a year and a half, until my wife started developing her medical problems. And, oh man, I tell you how she suffered, how I suffered. And so anyway, that's life. And so now my wife yesterday will be deceased 6 years. And, my wife told me when she was dying, she said, "Look, Zeller," she always called me Zeller, "I've never known a man that enjoyed life more than you. I've never known a man that knows how to live life better than you. When I'm gone, don't you dare sit around and mope and get depressed and, self-isolate. You live your life. You live your life, or I'll come back and haunt your ass." And so I have, I have a great life. I have so many good friends. I have so many contacts. I've also been a community activist, and, I'm involved in my community. And I'll tell you the truth, I'm the busiest unemployed physician in Lake County, Florida. You see, good physicians never retire. Good physicians are either practicing, they're unemployed, or they're dead. And I'm unemployed. I get several calls a week from former patients, friends, sometimes strangers will call me up and say, Dr. Zeller, so-and-so told me to call you because he said you would help me. And I said, and I answer, how can I help you? And so, I'm still a physician. I'm just unemployed currently. And I love it. I'm honored by it. And, man, that's what makes me tick. And so I have a good life. I smoke too much. I drink too much. But I ain't got no wife. I ain't got no girlfriend. What the hell? You got to die of something. Might as well die of something you enjoy. I'm 74 and a half years old. And I tell people all the time that if heaven ain't a lot like 509 Ambassador Avenue, Eustis, Florida, I'm not so sure I want to go. So, anyway, that's my story.
Well, let's get back to that Eustis story, because some of those stories I love. As far as when you were a child, you were growing up here at Eustis, you went to Eustis High School. You were class president. And as class president, you took the great responsibility on as far as, well, I got to lead by example. These people are my responsibility. And you were tested. You were tested and you sought wisdom. And what was that wisdom? I love the story of how the class, I do believe of 63, was united.
64. Class of 64, the greatest class that ever graduated from Eustis High School. Well, you have to realize Eustis was a little old town in those days. I mean, our graduating class was 72 individuals. And I'd say 85% of them, we'd been together since grade 1. And see, in those days, there was no preschool. There was no kindergarten. There wasn't even private kindergarten. You went to first grade. And so there's few of us. And so I was elected class president in seventh grade. You see, in those days, there was no middle school or junior high. When you graduated from sixth grade at Eustis Elementary, you went to seventh grade at Eustis High School. And let me tell you, it was a rude awakening. It was a trial by fire. And so anyway, I'm elected class president, and I served as class president all 5 years. 1 year, I lost an election, but next year, I was reelected. And so anyway, seventh grade. All right, well, let me set the stage. When we went to Eustis High School in seventh grade, we were little kids. We were 11 or 12 years old. The only hair we had was on the top of our head. I mean, there were men up there. They were shaven. They had hair under their arms and their groin. And let me tell you, and I'd say we had about 7 guys that were 15 and a half years old in 7th grade. They were just putting in the time until they turned 16 so they could legally drop out. And so when they came to school every day, they had only one thought in mind, and that is to make our lives as miserable as possible. And you talk about bullies, and they were big bullies. And so anyway, I'm not going to mention names, but wasn't long after we started 7th grade, these bullies, every day at lunch, as soon as they finished eating their lunch, they would grab my friend and fellow classmate, drag him out back to the school. There was asphalt back there, and there's a big storm drain out there. It's still there today. I can go up and see it. And they'd lift that grate up, and they'd throw my friend down into it, close it back, and they would walk around it cursing at him and spitting on him. And my God, I'm class president. He's my responsibility, not to mention he's my friend. And, what am I going to do? And I'll tell you one thing you never do. I'm sorry. One thing you never do is squeal. You don't. You don't squeal. All right. So anyway, I thought on it, and fortunately, I had the best sixth grade teacher this world's ever seen, Mrs. Helen Bartlett. And there should be a bronze statue of her out in front of Eustis Elementary School. And, she saw I was a pretty bright kid. And so after I graduating from sixth grade, she gave me a reading assignment for the summer. And, I loved the library. Oh, gosh. It was only 2 blocks from my house. And, I loved the library, and I wish I could remember the name of the Eustis Library librarian. What a wonderful woman. I think she was a spinstress. And patient and kind. And, oh, man, I love the library. So I completed my reading assignment. One of them was, because I tell you, Miss Bartlett had gone down there. She knew what books were in that library. And so one of the books was the biography of Gandhi. And the adolescent or young people's edition or something. I read that. And, of course, the way that Gandhi kicked the British out was not by force. It was passive resistance. And you see, the way passive resistance is a very effective tool. What you want to do is demonstrate, march, whatever, and hope and pray the authorities abuse you, beat you, water hose you, whatever. And that way you gain sympathy for your cause because you're not resisting. And so I spent a couple of sleepless nights figuring out what I was going to do about this situation up Eustis High School. And so, got to think about Gandhi. All right, so, next day, I go up there, Eustis High School. And of course, after lunch, they drag my friend out there and open the pit up. I'm right behind them. And I say, look, you bullies, I couldn't whip one of you, much less all of you. But I want to be down there with my classmate, my friend. Zeller, hey, no problem. Threw me down on top of Paul. And it was about 6 foot down. And so anyway, they cursed us, spat upon us. And next day, same thing. Third day, when they go to open that grate and throw us in, my entire class has circled them, and said, you bullies, you ain't going to put all of us down that pit. Just try. And from that moment on, the class 64 was one. We were united. And we looked out for each other. We helped each other. We loved each other. And, God almighty, we won the Ford State high school football championship in my senior year. And so I don't know if I had a part to play in that, but I'll tell you, look at the class 64, I'd be willing to bet good money that not a one of us has spent more than a week in the Lake County Jail today. And, we got a doctor, we got about 8 lawyers, a couple of CPAs, we've got a couple of PhDs and college professors. And in fact, one of our members won the Nobel Prize. All right. We were one hell of a class. And, I'm sure there were a few, I know we had a few alcoholics that died early, and I'm so sorry. And I wish I could intervene. I should have. But anyway, I don't know anybody in our class that ever was without, a roof over their head, clothes on the back, and 3 square a day on the table. And so anyway, that's all I can say about Eustis High School. It was wonderful after that. It was great.
Well, Dr. Zeller, how did you show courage? I mean, that took a lot of courage. Is it something that your parents taught you? I mean, how did you muster that courage and face those big bullies?
Well, let me start by saying that my beloved parents, my mom, my dad, and then my stepfather, taught me everything I ever needed to know to be contented and successful in life before I left for Emory University, Atlanta, Georgia, at 18 years old. And I remember one of the things they said is, Billy, they called me Billy till the day they died. I was honored by that. A brave man dies but once. A coward dies every day of his life. I hope you choose to be a brave man. My parents were so great. They didn't say, I want you to be or I expect you to be a brave man. They said, I hope you choose to be a brave man. And so, I said, that's pretty good advice. And, I don't think I ever had any fear of much of nothing. And so that was just a natural thing to do, be thrown down the pit. And it worked. Well, talking about how my beloved parents never said, you're going to do this. Well, yeah, they did. Yeah, but I mean, the course of your life, career, they never said, you're going to do that. Or we expect you to do that. You see, people think that expectations, it's fine to have expectations of other human beings. Expectations are promises you make for other people, okay? And you have no right to make promises for other people, other humans. It's fine to have high hopes for other people, but if you have expectations for other human beings, you're going to get disappointed a lot, okay? So that was the way I was raised. My parents, I was the only child, and I'm sure that shows. And I'll tell you, my parents spoiled me rotten. But they didn't spoil me with toys or something. I had my 3-speed Schwinn bicycle, and I had my Lionel train set, but they spoiled me with books and maps, and I had my own set of Encyclopedia Britannica, adult, when I was in second grade. And I'll tell you, I read from A to Z in second grade. I didn't understand much any of it, but I also had plenty of people around me, willing to help me explain stuff. And so I was spoiled rotten with stimulation to learn and learn to enjoy learning. And it worked. I still am learning every day of my life. And I remember my mother telling me that, Billy, if you don't learn something new every day, that's a wasted day. And I, try to learn something new. Some days I don't. I consider that a wasted day. But anyway, so that's the way I was brought up. I'm so grateful. And that's the way my wife and I brought up our kids, and it seems that's the way our kids are bringing up our grandkids. And so, my parents taught me that life ain't really rocket science, all right? Now, if you want to make it rocket science, hey, no problem, man. And it seems like most people spend their life trying to make their life complicated and rocket science. It's really pretty simple. You treat everybody with dignity and respect until they prove themselves unworthy of dignity and respect, and then you would never have anything to do with those people again. Never. You treat people like you'd want them to treat you. I mean, is that so hard? And, it's kind of like cooking. If you put quality into your cooking, you're probably going to get quality out. You put quality into your life, you're probably going to get quality out. And I don't know to this day why people just work so damn hard to complicate their lives. And it's a give and take. If you expect to get everything you want your way, good luck. It's a give and take. And that's the way I've gone through life. And I've enjoyed the hell out of life. Still do. So anyway, going back to Air Force. Garrett here at the break said that he wanted me to tell how I was the youngest major ever in the United States Air Force. Oh, hell, I wasn't the youngest major. But I was a major at 27 years old. And, I, of course, through my 3 years, and I ran into many majors, that didn't become a major until they were 38 years old. So anyway, I'm proud of that. And I was a good soldier. Again, referring back to my parents, always follow the 3F rule. With everybody, be fair, firm, and friendly. And that's what I was as a United States Air Force officer. And I think my men respected me and would do virtually anything for me, carry out my orders, as long as they were clear and precise. You see, the United States enlisted man is the finest force this world has ever seen, the citizen soldier. And he will gladly do anything you order him to do or die trying, as long as you give him clear and precise orders. And that's what I saw as a failing in so many of my fellow officers. They gave him these orders, but they were vague. They were up for interpretation as far as I'm concerned. So when dealing with my men or dealing with other human beings, I tried to make my point clear and precise. Fair, firm, friendly. And, hey, I don't know about you, it worked for me. So anyway, here I am, 74 and a half years old, enjoying my life, thankful for every day. And every morning when I awaken, I say a little prayer. Thank you, God, for another day. Please help me to squeeze every drop of joy I can out of this day and help as many others as I can along the way. And so I have no complaints. I'm fine. And, back to Thoreau, majority of men lead lives of quiet desperation. Well, I found that to be ever so true out in private practice. And I just never really quite understood it. I mean, you're a natural-born American citizen. 95% of the world would give their right arm to be in your shoes. And you got a roof over your head, clothes on your back, and 3 square a day on your table. I mean, if you're miserable with your marriage or your job, well, divorce. Resign from your old job, get a new one. Don't just sit there and take it. Anyway, I never had to sit there and take it much. And thanks to my parents and my wife. And so, anyway, I just say to all you out there that might be living lives of quiet desperation, it's your fault. You can change it. You can change it. All right? Don't sit there and complain about it. And, it's kind of like before this started, we were talking about Diet Coke, all right? And, and then we had a little discussion and, oh God, that Diet Coke's bad for you. And, I've drank Diet Coke from the time I was 10 years old. There wasn't Diet Coke, it was Tab, T-A-B. And, it ain't killed me yet. All my life I've drank City of Eustis tap water, and it ain't killed me yet. And, we're talking about these people that, wouldn't drink a Diet Coke. They drink only bottled water. They eat mainly no fat, no sodium, turkey. And I'll say, yeah, you know what? Those people die young. And conversation was, well, I said, they die of boredom. They die of boredom. And life's for living. Let me tell you, you're going to be dead a long time. And, you ain't going to live forever. But I highly encourage you to live while you're alive. And that's what I do. So, our host, he wants to learn lessons of life. He thinks I have all the answers. Lessons of life.
Not all,
Well,
but I tell you, I enjoy them, Doc.
Well, let me tell you right now, Socrates said that when he finally started to gain just a little bit of wisdom, he realized he didn't know shit. So, I think I've attained a little bit of wisdom, and I realize I don't know shit. I'm learning every day. But, I got some lessons in life. For example, one of our guests here was a dear friend of mine. And you see, I'm kind of crippled up. I have severe inoperable spinal stenosis. So my spinal cord is slowly but surely being strangled. And as a result, I'm losing all the strength in my legs and balance and all that. So I was going to get my rugs cleaned. They hadn't been cleaned in probably 30 years. And they were awful. And so I hired a local firm, and they took up all the oriental rugs I have on my carpet and rolled them up all. And my maid and my friend had helped me before, to get the tables and all that, out of the areas I wanted clean. And so anyway, so here I am crippled up. I have, every house in total disarray. And so my friend came over, put all the rugs back down. And I mean, he had to lift some heavy furniture to get the legs under it. And did a beautiful job, got everything back in order. My maid came the next day. She put all the knickknacks back on the table. And so, lesson in life. I told my friend, look, I'm going to take you and your wife out to eat for your kindness. And, of course, he's, oh, you don't have to do, no, you don't have to do that. I enjoy being able to help you. And I said, no, see, my beloved parents taught me this. You always repay kindness with kindness. Never fail. And if you do that, you will never be without a helping hand. And so far they're right. And pretty simple. And actually, I'll tell you a dirty little secret. You see, this is a shocker. It's more blessed to give than to receive. Okay, let me tell you. All right. And so by repaying kindness with kindness, I'm treating myself. It makes me feel good. So it's very selfish, but, hey, it's a win-win. So, all right, let's see. My host, your host, said that you wanted me to tell the story about when I graduated from University of Florida Med. All right, so our graduating class was 63 individuals, newly minted MDs, and I think we only had about 3, maybe 4 women. Let's see, but 4 in the class. This is the old days, and well, anyway, and they were great women. Oh hell, they were hell raisers just like the rest of us medical students. I tell people all the time, look, when you go to a new doctor and you've had 2 appointments with him, and you don't realize that doctor doesn't have at least one screw loose, run. Don't walk away from him. He ain't worth a toot as a doctor. I've never known a good doctor that didn't have at least one screw loose. And, buddy, I got several of them. So anyway, all right, you talk about a fun-loving, hell-raising bunch, medical students. So anyway, in those days, when you got your MD, you could take the state of Georgia state medical boards, okay? And you didn't need an internship. You didn't need a residency. Well, the tradition, of course, was that, when you graduated from University of Florida Med, you went up and took the Georgia state boards, even if you weren't planning on practicing in Georgia, but you had a state board. So anyway, I'd say about 2/3 of our medical class drove up to Atlanta, Georgia, and, we got in the night before, and of course, the whole class, I'm sure there were some exceptions, but the whole class was in a titty bar. Maybe not one titty bar, but, several. Drinking until 2 a.m. and, get up the next morning at 6 a.m. and go take the Georgia State boards. And I don't know. I think virtually all of us passed it. I mean, we were used to, 4 hours sleep, hung over as hell, and going to work. And so that was a fun trip. And, I still keep in touch with several of my old medical school classmates. And, they're still the same bunch of hell raisers. And, God, I'll tell you a story about one of them. I'll mention his name. I'm proud of this man as my friend. Captain Frank Thomas. Captain Thomas graduated from Annapolis, United States Naval Academy. Spent 8 years active duty, most of the time on nuclear subs as the XO. And after that, the Navy sent him into medical school. So, freshman class, first day, Frank Thomas is 8 years older than most of us, but he and I bonded instantly, man, and we have been close friends. And I'll tell you, we played so many rounds of golf in medical school, and we drank so much liquor and beer. And Frank Thomas today is 81 years old. And he he retired up in Palm Coast. And about every 6 weeks, 2 months, either I go up and visit him or he comes down and visit me for 2 nights or something. And I'll tell you, when we get together, I mean, we are back in freshman medical class, U of F, and he can still drink. And he smokes Pall Mall cigarettes. I smoke Lucky's. And, he's still a hellraiser. And, boy, sharp as a tack. And, that's stuff we were made of back in those days. And, so anyway, I'm saying by that, it's not just me. It's my generation. Unfortunately, I can't say the same for today's physicians. There are a lot of good young physicians out there. Don't get me wrong. I have plenty of them. But, you see, in my day, medicine, for most of us, was a calling, all right? And, we weren't fools. We knew if we did a good job, we'd have a comfortable living. I mean, we weren't fools. But we were not in it for the money. We knew, because our medical professors taught us, if you take good care of your patients, if you put them first and foremost, you'll never have to worry about money. You'll never have to worry about it, okay? Well, there's a lot of factors that have caused this, but today's medical professions, you see, it changed from a calling to a business, all right? And, let me tell you about business. I love business, all right? I ran a small business, medical practice for 30 years. But if you're in a business, let me tell you, corporation or something, you come on TV and you say, we're in business to help our employees. We're in business to help our community. We're in business to help our nation. Bullshit. All right? They're in business to make the most money they can for their corporation and themselves. Okay? So that works fine out in retail or something like that, but let me tell you, if your only objective is money, you're going to be a piss poor doctor. I'm sorry. And I'm not blaming the young doctors. It's been forced on them for a large part, but that's the difference you see between my generation of doctors and the subsequent generations. It's shifted, you see. It's not a calling. It's a business. And let me tell you, if you don't know how to run a small business, you're going to starve as a doctor. I don't care how many patients you're seeing a day. Could care less. If you don't know how to run a small business, you're going to fail. And so I was blessed because my parents ran a small business, and they taught me how to run a business. And so I had a leg up there. But if I had to criticize, I'd say today's doctors at least seem to concentrate more on the business aspect than the patient care aspect. And I don't mean they don't have all the knowledge and all that, but they just kind of miss that love and feeling of that doctor-patient relationship. And It's a wonderful, wonderful experience. That doctor-patient bond, I mean, when you form that, and you can't form that with every patient, but when you do, they will tell you everything about their life. And, of course, taking the Hippocratic Oath, I cannot reveal any of that. And I ain't going to put that shit in the record, okay? But I tell patients, look, I don't care. I don't care if you're an alcoholic, a drug addict. I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat. I don't care if you're black, white, yellow. I don't care if you're gay, straight, bi. But I got to know this shit if I'm going to treat you to the best of my ability. I got to know all this shit. I don't give a shit about it, but I got to know this. And I ain't put that in no record. But wonderful, wonderful bond. And, I just wonder if doctors today, spending approximately 3 minutes with a patient, ever have a chance to form that bond. And, buddy, when you form that bond, it's a sacred thing. And if a patient can trust you to tell you everything about them, man, you can deliver quality care to that patient. If you don't know everything about that patient, basically you're just treating symptoms, all right? And, I also, equated it to like if, the gas pump at the filling station is on fire. Well, that's a symptom. You can throw all the water on it you want, but you got to go back and turn off the main, all right? And that's what I mean. Headache? Patient comes in with headache? Well, sure, you want to do a good history and a good neurologic exam to reassure yourself it's not a brain tumor or something like that. And today we have CAT scan or something. But, what you really want to do is talk to that patient. Say, how's your life going? How's your marriage? How's your job? And 9 times out of 10, you'll find the cause of those symptoms, headache. And if you don't address those causes, it's making him have headaches, you're just throwing water on a gas fire. And so until you form that doctor-patient bond, I think it's virtually impossible to realize the core, the reason this guy's having headaches or backaches or, upset stomach or whatever. And in 3 minutes per visit, I don't think I would have the time to explore that. So anyway, God help the young physicians. And I understand their plight. And if I was in their shoes, I don't know what the hell I'd do. I'm just thankful I'm not in their shoes. But it was, like I say, it was a good life, good career. And, I never worked a day in my life. Yeah, I worked a couple. I never worked a day in my life. I loved my work. I didn't work. I was having the time of my life. And so maybe I worked, maybe out of my 30 years, maybe I worked 150 days. And every day wasn't a bed of roses, but even the hellacious days, if you got through it, you did your best, you had satisfaction of trying to do your best.
So, Doc, one thing that I always liked you talking about is how being a good doctor, you have to be a captain of your ship and a life of service. So, Dr. Zeller, take it away, please.
Well, another thing that I see so wrong today in medicine, primary care docs no longer take care of their patients in the hospital. They don't admit them. they don't take care of their patients in the nursing home. They don't take care of their patients in their home. And let me set the stage. Most of the time, the day you're admitted to the hospital, unless you're going in to have a baby or something, it's the worst day of your life. I mean, you are scared. You are in some type of distress. And, who do you want to see walk in that hospital bed room? A total stranger? No, you want to see your doctor walk in to that hospital room and say, "Hey, Jack, how you doing? I know. Don't worry. We got this." And, of course, if needed, you refer, specialists to help you in the diagnosis and care of the patient. But the specialists report back to you, the primary care. And you and your patient decide the course of treatment, okay? You don't have 10 different cooks in the kitchen all giving you little snippets of their input. You need a captain of the ship when you're admitted to a hospital that brings us all together, explains it to you, and you and the patient decide the course of action. And it's just not that way today. And I think medical care, especially in hospitals, is suffering from this. All right? So, anyway, too many cooks in the kitchen. And so I also took care of my own, I also admitted my own patients to the hospital. I got whatever specialist I needed, and patient and I decided our course of action. I took care of my own patients in the nursing homes around here. And when my shut-ins need to come to the office for their appointment or something, well, I don't think we had lake special transport much until the last 5 or 6 years I was in practice. But in order for them to get from their bed to my office, you'd have to call the ambulance. And I think in those days it was $600 each way, $1,200 round trip, paid for by the taxpayers. Well, hell, I'd just stop by on the way home after work and make a house call. I enjoyed house calls. And, it was always, "Hey, Doc, come in. It's so good to see you. You want a beer or a drink?" I said, "Well, if you're having one, sure. Shoot the bull." And plus you get paid more for house calls than an office visit. It was a win-win. I enjoyed it. In fact, the last official act as a practicing physician I made on August 31st, 2005, I made a house call on the way home. So, I tell you, what's my advice? What are my words of wisdom? I don't care what you do in your life, whether you're a plumber, an electrician, a doctor, lawyer, Indian chief, military, I don't care what you're doing. Before you do it, make a career of it. If it ain't worth doing right, it ain't worth doing. You either do it right or you find something else. You don't do it half-ass. And is it easy? No. But it's rewarding. And, who gives a damn about easy? God. That's a point. I was talking with my friend earlier today, and, I said, I could get Alexa or Google or something to turn my lights on or off, or I could, get them to sort my coffee in the morning, and I probably could make them get my shower ready for me. And, I don't want that. I want to have to get off my ass and go turn my lights on or off, get my shower, right temperature, make my coffee. I mean, man, you got to keep going. And life, I tell you, well, look at it. Life today is just too damn easy. All right? You would never have to get out of your chair except to go to the bathroom and fix yourself another drink or something, or have to get out of your chair. And why does anybody want that? I don't want to sit in my chair 24/7. And just, but you say, oh, it made it too easy. No, you made it way too complicated. You are now addicted, a pattern addiction to your iPhone and your computer. Well, let's talk about addiction. God knows, in my career, I took care of so many addicts. Oh, my God. And addictions are broken into two main streams. One is called substance addiction that we all know and love, drugs, alcohol, nicotine. And the other is called pattern addiction. Pattern addiction is gambling, video games, pornography. And if you want to see a pattern addiction, just go out to a restaurant. All right. And here's a couple out for a date night or something. Are they talking to each other? No, they're both looking into their phones. That's addiction. That is addiction. And in fact, it's been well proven that if you take that iPhone away from them, they actually go through withdrawal, just like if you take alcohol away from an alcoholic. He goes into what's called the DTs, which is a medical emergency. Well, physiologically, psychologically, if I take your iPhone away, you're going to go into withdrawal, okay? So it's made too easy, but there's always a price to pay for convenience. And the price you're paying is a pattern addiction to your phone, internet, whatever. God help you. My wife and I, when I retired, made a choice because my office was fully computerized, had to be by that time, and but we made a choice. Let's try living off the grid. And I gave my old computer, home computer, to the thrift shop. The only phone I've ever had is just a clam. I'm sure it has 100 functions on it. I know how to make a call, receive a call, and check my voicemail. That's all I want to know. I don't know how to receive a text. I don't want to text anybody. If I want to talk to them, I call them up. And so, I'll tell you what, my life is so simple. So simple. And I enjoy it. And, I don't feel I'm compelled to answer 20 emails a day. Thank God. I told my kids, wife and I, look, if our granddaughter falls down, skins her knee at school day, we don't want to know about that. We don't have to respond to that. That's your job. Okay, you handle it. All right? And, kiss it, make it well. If my grandson, third grade or something, gets in a fight today at school, I don't want to have to respond to that. That's your job. Now, if my granddaughter falls down and breaks her kneecap or patella, I'll be down in Orlando, make sure she gets the best pediatric orthopedic care to get that kneecap back together. If my son gets his jaw broke in the fight, I'm going to be down there and make sure he has the best reconstructive, surgery. But I don't have to feel compelled to respond to a skinned knee or a fight at school. I don't even want to hear about it. That's your job to handle it. All right. And, and, our kids, they know now I don't want nothing to do with this. I have nothing against it. It just ain't for me. And, I remember early on this, we could send you pictures of, your grandkids and this, that, or not. I said, I don't want to see those. I don't want to see those. Okay. And, the only time it would be kind of nice if the kids have a rash or something, maybe I could look at it and tell them what it is, but that's what they have pediatricians for. Okay. And so anyway, it's a simple life. I don't recommend it for anybody. It just suits me to a T. And, so I have to get up, turn my lights on and off. Thank you. Thank you for having to get me off my ass.
So, Dr. Zeller, you talked about addiction. You talked about keeping a simple life. I'd like you to dive in and kind of go to those solutions. What works?
Well, of course, I had many, many addicts in my practice. And, I sympathized with them. Hell, I wasn't judgmental. Nobody elected me or appointed me judge, jury, or executioner. I'm a physician. I've taken the Hippocratic Oath to relieve suffering, not to judge, okay, to relieve suffering. And so, with addicts, the first thing you got to make it perfectly clear with addicts is that I can do nothing to stop your addiction. Your wife can do nothing to stop your addiction. Your boss can do nothing to stop your addiction. The only human being that can rid you of your addiction is yourself. So unless you're willing, ready, and able to shed your addiction, there's no use in even starting on it. You got to want to start. Now, if you're in here, tell me your wife or your boss or something, trying to worried about you and wants you to stop your addiction, I say, no, you're wasting my time and yours. All right, you got to want to stop your addiction. And then with addiction, there's a reason people are addicted to drugs, alcohol, gambling, video games. The reason is they're miserable. They are miserable, and they are self-medicating with their addiction. Okay? And so again, going back to the fire at the gas pump, before you can ever hope to help them, you got to find out what's making them so damn miserable. Are they depressed? Are they anxious? Why are they miserable? All right. You got to find that out. And until you do, you're just wasting your time and the patient's time. So sometimes you find out, sometimes you don't.
Well, Dr. Zeller, is misery and anxiety, are they related?
Well, if you are living with chronic anxiety, you're miserable. Yeah. If you're living with chronic depression, you are miserable. And so, misery loves company. And, the bottle is a good companion. And so, anyway, that's the way you got to approach it. And I'm not saying I was successful in treating addiction. The very best drug and alcohol rehab centers, and I'm talking about a 90-day in-house treatment, they only have a 15% success rate of keeping that patient off their drug for at least a year, maybe more than that, but 5 years, shit, no. It's a hell of a problem, addiction, because, maybe you'd like to hear what not causes, but what keeps addiction going is in our brain, what's called the old brain, primitive brain. There's a nuclei there called the behavior reward center. Okay. And the behavior reward center is there to basically propagate the species. All right. And so in order to reproduce, you have 4 drives, because there's 4 things you got to have as a human to reproduce. Okay? You have to have food. You have to have water. You have to have sex. And you have to provide child protection, because a human child, until he's 14, he cannot fend for himself. You can't just turn him out in the wild. And so that's why you have a thirst drive. That's why you have a hunger drive, to keep you alive and healthy, to reproduce. Okay? And so you say, well, let me tell you, if you're hungry and your family are hungry, you don't think you'd rob a store, a liquor store, convenience store to get food for you and your family? If you think you wouldn't, you're kidding yourself. And when sailors are stranded on the sea and, they start drinking the salt water when they run out of fresh, people say, oh, they were delirious. Hell no. They could not resist the urge to drink water. That's why they drink the salt water and die. Okay? And so, behavior reward center, okay? When you accomplish these drives, it sends stimuli to your frontal lobes, and it makes you feel good. You've accomplished something. Okay, I mean, let's just think, when you eat a good home-cooked meal, oh, man, you feel good. Your behavior reward center is rewarding you for good behavior, all right? When you're out working in the yard and you're hot and thirsty, and you take that garden hose and you kink it and have a good drink of that water out of that hose, oh, man, that's the best water you ever tasted. And I don't have to tell you, when you have sex, how good you feel afterwards, all right? And, when you take care of your child, you protect your child, you nurture it, you feel good about that. You feel proud about that. That's your behavior reward center sending stimuli to your frontal cortex saying, job well done. Okay? So, guess what drugs do? They hit that behavioral reward center. Bam. And they don't hit it just with a couple of little stimuli. It is a shitload of stimuli, and you feel good. By doing nothing but sitting on your butt, drinking alcohol or taking dope, you don't need food, water, sex, child. Hey, man, it's right here in this bottle or right here in this joint. I don't need to get off my ass to feel great. So that's what you're fighting in addiction. That's what you're fighting. And let me tell you, it's hell. It's hell. And I pity the addict. I know what he's up against physiologically, if nothing else. I know what he's fighting. and God help them.
Well, Doc, are you talking about courage again? Because to me, that's exactly what it is. And I know you have a good definition of courage.
Of course, it's courage. To make any changes in your life requires courage, requires balls. All right? All right? And so I had the good fortune to be stationed for 6 months, Fort Hood, Texas, the home of the 1st Cavalry. So you say, what the hell is a Air Force flight sergeant doing at an Army base, 1st Cav? And, well, I kind of wrote the book on rotary wing helicopter evac and triage, and they wanted me down there to train their airborne medics. And so I was good at it. And so anyway, it's a funny thing. It seems like everywhere I go, people just take a liking to me. I don't know why. But anyway, so 1st Cav took a liking to me, and I took a liking to them. And they even bought me my own slouch hat. Yeah. You know, the slouch hat's that big blue cavalry hat with the gold braid and the cross sabers. Hey, man. And I learned the 1st Cav's definition of courage. Courage is when you are scared shitless, but you still saddle up. Okay? Cavalry, you know, horses. You still saddle up. And I couldn't come up with a better definition of courage than that. The guy that's saying, hey, come on, let's go kill them Indians. Come on, man, I can't wait to get out. That ain't courage. All right? Oh, it's the guy, the trooper that's scared shitless, but he still gets on that horse and goes into battle. That's courage. That's courage, my friend. Next question, host.
Okay. So it takes courage. But what is going to be that desire for that guy to overcome his addiction? Okay, it takes courage, but what gets him to that point? What is that motivation?
Well, of course, you have to realize when the addict presents himself to you as a doctor, he is shit out of courage. He has no courage. He despises himself for his addiction. All right? He ain't got no courage. And so, you know, one of the jobs of treating addiction, you gotta make people see they are useful. They're a human being, a unique creation. You know, they're not worthless. They've just let themselves become worthless. And, you know, I tell them, look, go rent a pair of balls and strap them on, okay, until you get self-courage. And, you know, I'm not saying that worked, but I think that's the crux of it. If you ain't got courage, you ain't going to beat your addiction because it's going to be hard.
So you're saying you have to understand the potential. What is that potential? How do you get a guy to grasp a potential? Because he might look at life and say, what is this all about?
Well,
Heck, I want to feel good. I'm not feeling good in all these other areas, so what does it matter, Doc?
Well, let me tell you, I ain't figured out life. I, truthfully, don't know what the hell this thing's all about. The only thing I know is this. As far as Mother Nature's concerned, Mother Nature, you're here for 2 purposes. Every living thing, be it a tree, a worm, a fish, or you, every living thing is here for 2 purposes and 2 purposes only as far as Mother Nature's concerned. Number 1, reproduce your species. Number 2 is when you are unable or unwilling to reproduce, eventually you will perform your second purpose, to die and become fertilizer for the living. And so that's what life's all about when you get down to the bare knuckles of it. That's why every living thing is here. But I'm sure there's more to that. Life can be what you make of it. It ain't going to be nothing more than you make of it. But, I think I used this example before the interview. It's like cooking. If you put the time, the effort, the ingredients into it, the love into it, quality, you put quality into your cooking, you're going to get quality out. And life's the same way. You put quality into your life, you're going to get a lot of quality out of it, okay? You put shit into your cooking, it's going to taste like shit. You put shit into your life, it's going to come out like shit.
Well, do you think our Creator put love in the creation?
Well, of course, now you're getting into religion. Okay. I believe in a higher power. I don't know who, what, where, when. It's not mine to know. I don't know what his plan is. I have no idea. But I can't help but think, when I look at this madness, this insanity, war, famine, pestilence, plague, there's got to be a purpose to this shit. And I'll never know what it is. But, what part he played in the Big Bang, I don't know. I don't know if he played any part in it. I don't know. It's not mine to know. But, so you say, did the Creator put love into creation? I don't know if he had anything to do with it. And, but I don't think, personally, my higher power really gives a shit about me. I'm a pawn in his chess game, and he will use me whatever purpose to win the game. And if he wants to use me for evil purposes, he's gonna do that. If he wants me to live for good purposes, he's gonna do that. That's kind of the way I look at higher power. He's in control, and I don't question him. I don't know what his game plan is, and I'm not really sure he gives a shit about me, other than an instrument. And that's one of my little prayers I say every day. Please, dear God, help me to be an instrument of thy will on this earth. And I try to be. Sometimes I succeed, sometimes I don't. So that's the way I look at religion.
Well, Doc, it sounds like you got some trust. I mean, you're trusting that you're praying to God, saying, hey, let me be an instrument according to your will.
Exactly.
Do you think this is a stepping stone?
I also say, dear God, please open my ears, eyes, and minds to your commands and instructions. Okay. Who do I trust? Ultimately, myself. Okay. Hey, I've got many a trusted friend. And, I trust them, but they're useless unless I have trust in myself. Okay. So ultimately, I rely on myself. And so far, so good.
What if that's the lesson? What if the lesson is to learn to trust God?
Well, I don't think that's the lesson yet. I don't know if you're listening or not. I'm not sure, God gives a dang about me. If the trust I have in my higher power is he's going to work out his plan, whatever the hell it is, he's going to work it out. And I trust he's going to do it. Am I going to get screwed in the process? I don't know. Wouldn't doubt it. So what have I got? I got myself. I trust myself. And yeah, I trust God's going to work this whole thing out, but whether that's good or bad for me, I don't know. I just got to do the best I can and trust myself with praying to God for do the right thing. I'm going to do the right thing. That's my trust. Next question.
Well, Doc, it is a blessing that you were born with an IQ of 182. I shouldn't say that, but yet you didn't just sit around with that. You actually lived life. You took the talents and gifts and you used them. And you used them to help other people, which I really respect. Now, looking forward, what is that message that you want the youth to have today? What is that main message, if there's such a thing as a main message for the youth today?
Youth of America, realize that you are a unique individual. There will never be another Garrett the Friendly Barber. There will never be another William V. Zeller, MD. Value yourself. Set your goals. Hit your wagon to a star. Set your goals. And never stop till you get to them. And when you get to them, set another goal higher. You're given so many talents, and they can be utilized not only for the good of others, but for you to find fulfillment and enjoyment in your life. And don't squander them. Don't waste them. Take full advantage of them. And if you don't, when you're on your deathbed, you'll say, man, I wish I'd done such and such and such and such. I guarantee you when I'm on my deathbed, which will be sooner than later, I'm going to have, a few things I would have changed, tweaked a little bit. But when I'm on my deathbed, I ain't got no regrets in the way I live my life. I ain't got no regrets in my wife, my kids, my career, my military, my education. If I had to do all over again, I'd do it again in a heartbeat. And don't leave anything on the playing field. All right? That's an old football term. Don't leave anything on the playing field or the court. Pour it all out. Pour it all out. Win or lose, pour it out. And don't waste it. Don't go to your death wishing you had done this or gone there, or don't do it. Don't do it. You ain't going to get another chance in this world. Live life. Live it to its fullest potential. Your career choice, whatever. And, if you're miserable along the way, there's a reason. You don't like your job, you don't like your wife or something. You don't have to stay in that state of misery. Get some courage, saddle up, and change. You youth of America I'm talking to, you're probably going to change your mind 5 times between now and the time you're out, graduate from higher education, trade school, vocational school, whatever. You're going to change your mind a lot. Well, once you decide what you want to do, give it 110%. Okay, 110. And if it don't work out, don't bitch about it. Change. Takes courage to change, but the reward is the ultimate. Don't live a life of quiet desperation. You don't. Well, Garrett, thank you for allowing me to share this time with you and your audience. And let me tell you, I don't have to tell Garrett, but I'll tell you, my audience, that if you ever want to talk to me and if I can help you in any way, get in touch with me. Garrett can get you in touch with me. I don't know if I can help you, but I'd be honored to listen to your problem, see if I could steer you in the right direction, get you in the right hands. That's my life. I love it. So good night, all. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. I have to. Okay.
Well, thank you again, Dr. Zeller. Absolutely appreciate it. Look forward to hearing you again. And thank you to all our listeners on Community IQ. Look forward to hearing from you as well.